So real quick guys, before we jump into the charts, got to give a shout out to the sponsors of these videos. Prime XBT. Sign up to Prime XBT with the link below. Use code MAIN50 before you deposit any money. You'll get a 7% deposit bonus. If you want to support me, I'm not asking you guys for anything. You don't need to pay me money. Support the company that is sponsoring these streams and have been for over 18 months now. So shout out to the Prime XBT team. If you guys want to take trades on things outside of crypto with crypto as collateral, you can trade these things on Prime using crypto as your form of collateral. So if that's of interest to you, the best way to support me and these streams is using that link in the description of this video. Okay, so we're gonna start with Bitcoin here. So as you guys know, I have a pretty mechanical system with how I look at the charts, right? Which involves looking at ranges and then looking for market structure shifts and then looking for continuations. Right now, I'll kind of give you a breakdown of my view on Bitcoin from the high time frame down, and then I'll kind of give you my trading scenarios that I'm looking at. We'll start way up here on the monthly. We had a very clear reclaim of this monthly kind of down move here. So the first monthly reclaim right here, right? This was our monthly breaker, took out the previous month's low, shot up. We now have another monthly level here. Again, took out previous month's low, came just shy here, but if you actually use this as your order block, took out previous month's low into this monthly order block, shot up. So to me, the monthly still bullish. There's no reason, in my opinion, on the highest time frames to be thinking that we're going to 10K or something like that. Can we trade lower? Of course. Can we trade a lot lower? Of course. I mean, we can trade well back into, here or even lower. Anything is possible. But for now, I would like to assume that any sort of pullback here at first attempt is a long. Obviously, if we start losing structural levels on the weekly and the daily within this area here, then yeah, you can start getting more bearish. But as long as on the monthly perspective, and this goes for the weekly as well, my assumption and how I am operating is that this is a higher low for now. So as long as we are trading above this level, I believe that any sort of pullback, this is a higher low, and we are eventually going to continue higher and make a higher high. Now, this higher low is very far away from the current price, right? It's 24,800. There's a lot that can happen between now and then. Price can drop, 10% and still be well above that low. So I'm not just saying you can long here and put your stop below that low. It's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying from the higher time frame perspective, in my opinion, as long as this low is defended, I think the pullback that we are experiencing is a higher low. How deep that pullback goes is going to be the next question, and we'll try and answer that on the lower time frame. So the monthly, to me, should still be viewed as bullish. Obviously, one thing to consider, we have April's high here. Then you can also take April's low here. So we are trading within the range of April's candle. And if you zoom into the lower time frame, you can see we traded below April's low, reclaim, traded to the highs. Now we're back within. So there is an argument to be made that we could trade back into this range. You can actually use June's candle and get a very similar level. So if you look here, this is April's range. So to me, deviate the high, I think the draw is the mid-range. Now, if you do the same thing with June's candle, you get a very similar spot, slightly lower, but similar kind of idea. Traded above June's high, target the mid-range. Something to watch, obviously, for the bears is, yeah, we have failed to close above April's high. That needs to happen, but we failed to close above August's high here. Bearish close, looked ugly. The next candle blew it out of the water. So we could have an ugly candle close here, and then the next one can be a huge green one, and then everyone will forget about it. So from a monthly perspective, my view is simple. As long as this low remains in place, however deep this pullback goes, I'm looking to find support to then justify a long, and I think we can trade up until this fair value gap up here. I know this is a huge fucking box, but we have that clear 32K level of resistance, and then I like the 34, 35K zone, which is kind of this low right here, right in the middle of this fair value gap. So that's the area that I think if we are going to make a higher high, that's where I would be targeting. 34, 35K, definitely a move above that 32,500 liquidity level that everyone's been talking about. Now, how low can this pullback go? That's going to be something that we're going to answer on the lower time frames here. So let's go down to the weekly. What I see here on the weekly, a run of liquidity above this high. And as you can see, selling pressure, right? We failed to close above this 31,100 level. This is April's high, that same level from the monthly. So you have this as a big weekly SFP. You also have this high here, which is June's high. Again, I showed you this on the monthly. SFP, traded above, closed below. So to me, short term, the longer we consolidate here with these upside wicks, the more likely I think that it's distribution, at least a smaller time frame distribution, that is going to lead to some sort of pullback here. I still see this as a level of liquidity. However, I don't think we swipe this level and then just dump. I think if we eventually take out this level, we then trade up to that 34, 35K zone that I had marked out. But we're into resistance here, right? So you have to be somewhat cautious. I'm actually in a short right now. I have a long hedge on my position based on some low time frame stuff, which we'll get into. But I took a short the other day simply based on key resistance here, and we have a weekly SFP plus low time frame setup here with the H12 breaker causing that SFP and the break in market structure. That was enough for me to get into a short. So I'm in a short based on that alone, and it is something that you want to watch. Like, the longer we consolidate here, in my opinion, the more likely I think it is that we actually trade lower than that this is reaccumulation. This to me is starting to feel more and more like distribution. We'll distribute lower, and then we see if the bulls step in down here. So on the weekly, my thoughts are very similar to the monthly, where this is still an uptrend. Low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low, question mark, because this is yet to be a higher high. We're failing to make a higher high for now. What the bulls need to do is any sort of pullback, whether this is the pullback or we pull back deeper, they then need to make a higher high through this high here to continue this bullish uptrend. And this is that same low that I showed you on the monthly. So as long as we're above this low, my assumption is that we are in the process of, or we are going to be putting in a higher low on some sort of pullback. So where could that pullback happen? This could be it, right? We had the sweep of the low here on the low time frame. That could be it. Otherwise, I'm looking at the breaker. So just like we had here, right? We had the breaker right here. Sweep of the low, break the high, retest. There was your long. And if you go look at the monthly, this move is that sweep on the monthly as well, right? So you have the retest of the breaker and a sweep of a monthly low, or in this case, a weekly SFP occurring at the same spot. We could have the same thing happen here, right? We have a sweep of the low, we have a break of the high that swept the low. So to me, this is an area where the higher low could potentially form, just like it did here. I waited for this breaker forever, and then I didn't long it nearly as strongly as I should have. But this is the same thing. And just like this breaker took several weeks to get to, we can continue to chop around here before ever coming and retesting this area if we do it all. But that's where I get this zone from. Right, this 28K level. It's this breaker here. It also lines up with the mid-range of June's candle, which I showed you, and around the mid-range of April's candle, which I showed you. Lots of confluence in this 27 to 28K zone, in my opinion, for a potential higher low. But this would be the last place I would look for a long if it's going to pull back here, because if we lose this area and this thing, then I don't know where this goes. We could go back to 20K. We could go lower than that. So I don't really want to see, if I'm a bull, price trade much lower than 27 to 28K and not trade below there for any significant period of time. So weekly, I would like to see him move down to 27, 28. I'd be interested in looking for longs there. We do have a weekly bearish SFP. And then if you go down to the 12-hour chart, so now we're getting more granular here, we have an H12 SFP and we had a break in market structure on the H12 chart right there. So to me, this is enough to enter a short position, or at least look for a short position. So we have the break in market structure, we have the weekly SFP. So if we push up into here and then get bearish price action, maybe we sweep a high, maybe we on the low time frame put in a sweep of a high and a breaker, that's enough for me to get into a short. I can also just short the 12-hour breaker as is. Entry here, stop here if you want to, but does the risk reward make sense? That's got to be part of your trading checklist. I think that's something that a lot of people miss. And I had a question about this literally just the other day. Someone said, hey, like, you know, I found the level, I wanted to enter here, all of this stuff lines up, but the risk reward is only 1. What do I do? Like, well, maybe that's not a good trade. All the pieces of the puzzle can line up, but if the risk reward is 1, maybe that's just not a good trade. Maybe that's not a trade you should take, because part of your checklist should be risk reward. And for me, I like at least a 2 reward to 1 risk minimum. Occasionally, I'll take a 1.5 to 1 if it's a higher hit rate signal, in my opinion, but at least 2 is generally where I aim. So I can have bias, the order block, the entry trigger. I can have all these things checked off, but if the potential risk reward is 1, guess what? Not a good trade. An example of that is here. Where do you target here? Well, okay, I like 27, 28K for the reasons I explained before. Well, if my stop is this wide, it's got to go all the way to 27K for me to get a 2R. At 28K, 1.3, not that great. Well, how can I improve this? It's not just by arbitrarily moving my stop up to here. Oh, well, now it's 2.85. Why does the stop here make any sense? Above here, I'm wrong. This is the H12 SFP. How can I get my stop tighter? Lower time frame trading. You get that little trigger here. All of a sudden, on the low time frame, still using that high time frame context, I've got an entry there and a nice tight stop. And now to my target, the risk reward is much more favorable, right? So you don't just arbitrarily move your stop to make the risk reward better. And if a trade's risk reward sucks, maybe the trade itself sucks, even if all the other things are ticked. Right now, I'm in a short based on this H12 breaker, and I am looking for price to trade up here and then find resistance. I want to see weakness. Maybe it sweeps this high. Maybe we trade up into here and we put in some low time frame distribution. That's my game plan for now, based on the 12-hour. We have the weekly SFP, the 12-hour market structure break with the 12-hour breaker. I'm looking for reasons to short here down into this weekly area where I want to long. Now, I've filled some of that short already. I still have available risk to allocate to this trade if we trade higher and I want to add size. But I also hedged with a long based on a run of this low here. So everyone was waiting for 29,500 to get run. It also happened to be Monday's low that got taken out at the same time. So I took a hedge long here. I just explained a 12-hour setup from the weekly. Well, now we have a 12-hour high time frame setup, and then we have our hourly trigger, right? Our hourly breaker is here. There's your run on the low. So I took a hedge long based on this with a goal of Monday's high and that 12-hour high just to protect myself in case we do get that pump. I can capture some upside on the way up and then look to build that short for the way back down. But one of the reasons I don't love this hedge is, one, I'm ideally aiming for lower prices. I want price to trade down to 27, 28K, but this wick didn't happen on all the exchanges. So I don't like the SFP signal as much when it doesn't happen across all the exchanges, but the primary thing that I'm looking for is the exchange that I'm trading. So if you're taking the trade on Bybit, that's where your analysis at the end of the day matters the most. So on Bybit, we got the wick. A lot of people were waiting for a sweep of this low. We also just got a sweep of Monday's low and of this low here. So to me, it was enough. Basically, everything has wicked below where everyone wanted to long. My concern is a lot of people were waiting for this, 29.5 wick, didn't wick everywhere. So I'm still sticking with my bias that I want to short, and I'm already short and I want to add to my short on any sort of pump. So this long that I'm in, and I posted this on Telegram down here, we're at 29,800. I posted the long idea on Telegram. I'm in this, but it's a hedge because all I want to see is price bump up, and then I want to get more short for the next leg down. That's my general game plan for now. Obviously could be wrong. If we start putting in bullish market structure on the 12-hour chart, my idea is likely going to be wrong. Technically, I am not invalidated until here. But if we close through here and put in a higher high, while the 12-hour is still technically in a downtrend, this could be a clue that, we're actually going to trade higher. So that's kind of the level I'm watching now. And I don't really want to see price close through this 30,400, 30,500 area on the 12-hour. It can wick above, it can close above, but then it would have to get back below almost immediately for me to be confident that this short idea is going to still play out. Hopefully that's a pretty clear, straightforward plan. I'm in a hedge long, aiming for Monday's high, 30,400, 30,500, and then I want to look for reasons to add to my short, and I want to short down into 27 to 28K. And then in that 27 to 28K zone, I am looking for a higher low to 4, and then hopefully ride that to a new high. If we just trade up from here, so be it. I will have to then find a way to get long in this consolidation or on a breakout. And if we trade down to here and we just do not put in bullish market structure, well, then guess what? I'm going to be reevaluating a lot of things with regard to my spot holdings and the state of crypto in general, because I don't think it should lose this area if it is going to make further highs. Okay, so Ethereum, in my opinion, looks a little bit worse than Bitcoin, but we have a big monthly sweep here, big monthly sweep up here, go down to the weekly, and we're within this weekly breaker. As much as we have that monthly SFP, it's not enough to short yet because we do not have that weekly market structure break. If we get a weekly close on Ethereum below 1680, things start to get very scary. And wouldn't you know, this level here lines up precisely with that level on Bitcoin that I'm watching at, 25K. Same thing, right here. So you really don't want to see Ethereum trade below here on the weekly, or else who knows how low it can go. But that's a long way away. We're quite far away from that still. Looking now at the lower time frames here, because those are going to be more interesting, we have a similar kind of setup on Ethereum. So if I take this low and this high, this would be where I want to long Ethereum, similar to how I want to long Bitcoin. So I want to long Bitcoin at 27 to 28K. Well, to me, the Ethereum levels that are equivalent to that are around 1700 to 1750, because you do not want to see Ethereum trading below this low. So just like Bitcoin, you don't want to see it go below that 25K level. We don't want to see Ethereum pull below this level, right? Or else the structure starts to get really ugly. So the structure itself is worse than Bitcoin still. I would like to long Ethereum 1750 based on the weekly. Now, we have a weekly SFP here. And if you go down to the 12-hour, to me, right, you have this weekly SFP here. There's your 12-hour SFP. Bitcoin is already given that MSB on that kind of confluent breaker where Ethereum has not. But the concern for me with Ethereum is like, these lows look kind of just juicy. And if you go down to like even the H4, it looks like it kind of wants to roll over from right here, right? So we have an SFP, another SFP up here. This comes that breaker, and lo and behold, we came up into it, SFP'd. So this would have been a pretty nice short on Ethereum here, to be honest with you. And to me, there's, this very clear liquidity below all of these lows. Like this looks like it wants to just puke. So Ethereum looks worse to me. I'm not short Ethereum. Maybe that would have been the better short, but this kind of lines up with my analysis based on the weekly. Is if we get that push down to 27, 28K on Bitcoin, I think the equivalent push down on Ethereum is below these lows towards that, 1760 level and zone. We also have this 12-hour breaker right here. This would be kind of where I want to long Ethereum if we're going to get a decent correction, is a pullback from where we are now, wipe out these lows, fill in some of this candle, this fair value gap right here into that high time frame support. So if Bitcoin's going to give us this pullback that I'm hoping we get, this is the equivalent pullback that I'm looking for on Ethereum to 1740, maybe up to 1800. Maybe it doesn't come all the way down here. I don't know yet. It could just come and fill in this, right? It doesn't have to come all the way down. Maybe it's a little shallower and we just run these lows. I don't know yet. I'm going to be waiting and seeing. But Ethereum, to me, the chart is a little bit messier. So I've been focusing on trading Bitcoin right now because it's just cleaner to me. But if we get a market structure break on the 12-hour chart below here, so a daily candle close below here, a 12-hour candle close below here, any sort of rip up, I think, is a short into here. If we get a break and close below here, any sort of bounce, I'd be looking to short for another leg down. Now, you look at Ethereum BTC, right? So I had some people who, I think are good traders thinking that this is the higher low. And it very well could be. I mean, if you look at the weekly here, you could argue that, okay, this is your pullback, on Ethereum BTC. There's your 62% pullback of this leg, and this is where the higher low is going to form. I'm all for it, right? I want number to go up. I don't want things to continue to look shitty and continue to go down. I want prices to go higher because it's easier to make money when everything is going up. It's way easier to make money when Bitcoin is chatting like this. During this green candle, these green candles, altcoins are going nuts, right? But the concern is if Bitcoin and Ethereum start rolling over, a lot of these altcoins outside of XRP and Solana basically have already given back their entire XRP kind of complementary pumps. I want the market to continue higher, and I can see the argument on why a higher low could be forming here on Ethereum BTC. BTC. I'm still just looking at this range here. I had this weekly SFP. I thought maybe that was it. We closed below there, so we traded even lower. You could argue that, hey, like we're holding above, you know, this low, right? So as long as we're holding above this low, I mean, you can hope that this is, you know, the formation of a higher low. We're holding above this low. We traded below it. We're back above. We're within that 62% pullback. We have this fair value gap here that we're trading in. All that stuff makes sense to me in terms of this could be the higher low. But right now, you got to see it start doing some higher low shit. So just because this is an area where you think the higher low is going to form, okay, well now I need to see price prove to me that that is the case. I want to see bullish market structure. And so we had the low, we have a high, we have a potential higher low here, but we have yet to make a higher high. And this looks like it wants to trade back down to here. If this is indeed the higher low on Ethereum, or it's going to form in this area, just like I was explaining earlier on the other charts, I need to see the low time frame start to give me that bullish price action. The lower time frame is going to give you the clues. We want to see bullish market structure on the lower time frame. And so in this instance, this is where a higher low could form on the weekly. Okay, start showing me bullish market structure on the H12. Got the beginning of it here with this move and this low. But right now we've swept that high and this looks like it wants to trade lower. And the thing is, with the weekly chart, we can do a whole nother leg down and then put in the higher low and it will still look like a nice healthy retracement. The problem is if you're trying to time it and the higher low is actually one more leg lower, you definitely don't want to be long before that one leg lower because your chances of you holding that drawdown are very slim. Looking at the dollar index, to me, this is an area of interest just below price here where we could come down into. Maybe we're front running that zone. Maybe we're going to get one more leg down and then we're going to get the bounce. But I do think that if we come into this zone, it gives us a good bounce. We had two massive down weeks. And basically since May, we've been going down. And then, you know, in reality, since October of last year, we've been trading lower significantly with only two kind of small bounces relative to how much we've sold off. So one thing that you want to be cautious of as a crypto bull, and I know that the correlation with the dollar is not always 1-to-1, but something you absolutely want to be paying attention to, in my opinion, is if the dollar reclaims this low, I think it can bounce pretty fucking hard. And if it reclaims this low and then all of a sudden it wants to bounce up to here, maybe then it goes down after, but this bounce will not be good for Bitcoin. So something to watch there. Absolutely, is the dollar took out this low here. If it reclaims it, could be putting in a large bounce. So something to be aware of. And then obviously you got to look at equities. And it's like, well, what the fuck? Do these stop ever? At what point does everyone just admit that they got fudded out of equities by the constant talk of recession by the mainstream media and the Fed and fucking macro doomer idiots who've been telling you to short this thing literally during a ripper? This is October of last year. October of last year, we're up 30% from the bottom. Okay, we're almost back at all-time high. And there have been people who have been telling you that this is going way lower forever, right? Like their entire persona is based on the macro is still bad and this is going lower. Maybe the macro sucks. The bottom line is this thing's going fucking up. That argument, like, well, the macro is bad, so I don't care that the chart is going up. It's equivalent, in my opinion, to someone saying, well, this coin doesn't do anything, so I'm not gonna long it. When Pepe was in an uptrend and going nuts, who fucking cares, right? Just trade the chart at the end of the day. But yeah, a lot of people have been sitting in cash and have missed out on this entire upside because of the macro and doomers and things like that. Now, can this still correct? Of course. Right? How high does this go before correcting? Does it make a new all-time high? Does it sweep this high and then fucking nuke? I have no fucking clue, but I'm not interested in shorting this at all. And I have not tried to short it even remotely for ages. And if you guys have been following me, every time I've talked about it, I'm like, there's no reason to short this thing. Right? There's no reason to short this thing until it starts like losing levels, right? Like when it trades above a high and then gets back below, sure. Trades above the high, back below, trades above the high, back below, trades above the high, back below, but this thing is just going up. So why would you try and short it until it does something at least remotely bearish is crazy to me. And a lot of people have gotten punished being on the wrong side of this move, whether it be from shorting or just from literally being sidelined and having zero exposure or and just hating their fucking life the entire time too. But these markets look very strong. Like the Dow is the weakest looking of the three, but it looks like it's about to break out. NASDAQ, I don't know. like, does it stop before all-time high? Do I think that this is an efficient move? No. But is this an efficient move? Look at how long this motherfucker can go straight up before it corrects. Look at how inefficient this feels. And then you get the correction, but it went up so much that who gives a shit about the correction? This is just 2020 here. Look at how much it went up. It crashed. Everyone said we had the biggest recession of all time, and it didn't even erase like more than half the gain. So the same thing could happen here. This can keep trading up longer than you can believe, and then it will correct. But at that point, maybe it's made a new all-time high, and its correction is irrelevant relative to how much it's gone up already, right? So you gotta keep that in mind. These markets still look very strong. Do I think they are due for a correction? Yeah, I do. But am I going to try and be a hero and guess the top? Absolutely not. I am much more interested in waiting for the chart to do something bearish on a meaningful time frame before I try and step in front of the fucking bus. Show me your neck. Okay. It's huge. Everyone's like, it's fucking huge, Trader Main. Before I head off into the jungle. Back in the day when I was a broke hippie doing copious amounts of psychedelics and raving in the forest all fucking night for 4 or 5 days in a row. You're sleeping in a tent outside. Go have a shower. You should just have a shower. Why does that sound like a threat? I feel like that shouldn't be a threat. Turn this fucking stream off and get locked in. Get locked in. I don't know if that's a question or a statement, but either way, fuck you. Where should I put my money? God damn it. Maybe put the money in your mouth so that way less words come out. 33 years old, try not to pull a Jesus. Which part? The dying or the coming back to life? Or walking on water? Turning water to wine? He did a few things, that guy. He was one of our best. It says Virgin Maine. What's good? What the fuck's that supposed to mean? My girlfriend's real. Or am I crazy?